Excellent. Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. I'm Jonathan Freedman, and our next guest is Gabrielle Clemens, Managing Director of RBC Wealth Management. Welcome to Radio Entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Jonathan. Nice to be here.
Good to have you on. And I know you've been busy in particular through the pandemic and dealing with a lot of clients that are facing personal challenges and perhaps some financial challenges as well. Why don't you tell us where your practice focuses and what you're involved with?
Well, thanks, Jonathan. Yes, so my practice, I'm a managing director, as you said, of RBC Wealth Management. And before getting into financial services, I was a divorce attorney and tax attorney in Boston. And when I transitioned to financial services, I started working just organically with a lot of women going through the divorce process. And now with COVID, this is more alarming as an issue as ever. You have people losing their jobs, cutting their pay. You have health issues, you have financial issues, and mental health issues as well. So the courts in Massachusetts in particular have been closed. They're slowly opening up, but there've been a lot of questions around the divorce process, how to file, what happens if you have a trial that has been scheduled, but the courts are closed, and what happens financially with the markets, the volatility, and just the issue of people are having to modify their support because they're not earning as much money, they've lost their jobs, all in the whole spectrum of this health crisis. It is absolutely the perfect storm for families who are trying to make it through. So it's creating a lot of strain.
So as the typical individual who, let's look at somebody who's single and navigating the challenges of the pandemic, as everyone is, that much more complicated when you're dealing with a family unit, and in particular in a case where a family might have additional strain, whether it relationship strain and or financial strain added on top of it. So what are you seeing, and how are you guiding people to try and navigate in an uncertain world with even greater pressures than they face on a day-to-day basis? I'm sure there's a lot of strain and as you said, some tremendous mental anguish.
Yes, Jonathan, there really is. And the first step to take is call in the professionals and start with your mental health. If you're feeling anxious, and a lot of people are, start with getting a good therapist, find someone that you trust, with teletherapy, you don't really even have to leave your home anymore, and start on the right track of getting your emotions in check. In order to help anyone, yourself, make smart financial decisions, you have to be in a good mindset. So starting with your own mental health, I think, is the most important first step. Secondly, break it down. If you have a spouse who may have been furloughed, laid off, a reduction in pay, work with them to try to modify their financial support obligations without going to court. Absolutely, if you have to go to court, it's going to be expensive. If someone files for a modification of child support or alimony, it's going to be retroactive to when they first file. So there are a lot of financial issues around going filing and going through the system, the court system, especially with the courts being closed and slowly opening. So trying to keep things friendly, if you can, with your spouse, which I know your ex-spouse, which can be a challenge. It's most important if you can go to a mediator or a third party or your accountant or somebody instead of going to court. If you have to go to court, you may not, if it's going to be a trial, you may not be seen for 3 months, 6 months. That whole time, it's going to be expensive to keep attorneys on retainer and going through the system, as well as the mental anguish you're going to go through just knowing that you have a trial date coming up. So, we're seeing contempts, modifications of ongoing support orders. New filings are coming through as well, although those are going to take a little bit more time to process. Some of the courts are not even issuing summonses. You can file all you want, but your spouse is not even going to be summoned to court or told about the complaint for maybe a month or two. So that's slowing the process down as well. And all of these things take not only a financial toll, but also an emotional toll on yourself, your family, and your children.
Well, I would imagine, a complicated situation is made even more complex by the variables that you talked about. One, cohabitating in a bad environment. The reality of that situation for most people to get out of it requires, paying rent or paying something in a second, premises. Again, as people are going through difficult times. So how are you seeing people coping with new situations in this environment?
A lot of people are going
It's
home to
not
live
easy to
with their
crash on your
parents.
friend's couch. It's not easy to
Right,
crash,
exactly.
it's like there's no option really, a tent.
Well, and I know, and that's even an issue too, because of COVID and social
Right,
distancing. Your friend's couch, your friends don't necessarily want you on their couch. They don't
right.
know where you've been. They don't know where your kids have been. Things are loosening up a little bit, but I think in the fall we are expecting, maybe another spike in the COVID instances here in Massachusetts and elsewhere. So it's not so easily integrating yourself into another person's household, especially if they have
Right.
elderly parents. Again, they don't want you around. So a lot of people have been, a lot of people have moved out of the city. And if they were renting or if they have a place there, I'm finding people will allow people to quarantine in their homes, their vacant homes that are elsewhere, typically in the city, while they go through this process. But again, it's difficult because they have less money. They're trying to start a second household, and also managing the kids. This has been a big issue. It was a big issue back in March and April, moving children from one home to the other, where one was very COVID concerned and the other parent perhaps was a little bit less concerned about it, or a little bit more lenient with the masks and the social distancing. So what we're just seeing is people taking precautions and doing the best they can. One moves up to the attic or down to the basement and tries to maintain a status quo and a civil household, but it's increasingly becoming more difficult. Definitely
Then
more difficult.
always the challenge, making sure that the kids are as least affected as possible. But I would imagine, again, back in an environment where this sort of abnormal world that we're living in, where people, in a bad situation could vacate the house for 10, 12, and 15 hours at a time and, perhaps come back or go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Now with remote work and, people not going to their traditional places of work, you've got 24/7 exposure in some respects. And that must be making situations that much more delicate and complicated in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well, I have plenty of clients who travel for work and they're gone throughout the whole week and they come home just on the weekends, to your point, and now they can't do that. And it's hard on them too. They're not used to being at home, never mind at home with maybe a spouse and children who now they have to homeschool. I mean, this is just the perfect storm for all families, but in particular those who have to really work it out, particularly two career families. I know that a lot of people are having professionals come in to teach their kids in small pods because they're each trying to work. One's upstairs on a Zoom call, one's downstairs on a Zoom call, and kids are, sort of left in the middle trying to cope and have someone make them lunch. And it's just, it's just very difficult, but people are getting through it. And if they don't end up in divorce court, then I think they'll be all the stronger for it.
Well, I tend to agree with you. Out of bad things come good learnings. And, perhaps if people could sort of step back and put it into perspective, it's always easy to have woe is me, as opposed to looking at the outside world and what's going on. There's plenty of people who don't have food to put on their plate and place to sleep any night of the
It's
of
very
the week.
true. Yeah, it's very true. And, it's actually also been a beneficiary of COVID is Match and Bumble and all the online dating. All of a sudden, everybody has a lot of time to start looking for a new spouse. So whether or not you're still married and you're doing that, I don't know, but it does happen. And so that's been, I think, a social outlet for people who can't get out normally, but we'll see.
So under the best of circumstances, I'm sure your guidance for people is pretty, structured and matter, and I don't want to say matter of fact, but you stick to a structure and tell people to take certain steps and to protect information and to get information in order and things of that nature. You find in this world today with the uncertainty, you're doing a lot more of the emotional counseling than historically you would have?
I am. It's true, Jonathan. I do a lot of emotional counseling and find the mental health professionals that I think are best suited for my clients. But one other thing that is an important step to take when you have any kind of chaotic situation or situation that you feel that you don't have control over is to start a plan. So I work with a lot of my clients. Everybody has a financial plan in writing. We always go back to the plan when something changes. So if they can see how this market volatility, how a change in their income or their support from a support order, how that will affect their long-term financial goals, then they feel a little bit more comfortable that, okay, well, I'm not going to be eating cat food when I'm, 65. I will be able to retire. This isn't the end of the world. Things will go back to normal, or I can get a job doing something different than I was doing before. So I think when you go back to a plan, go back to a financial plan, any kind of plan that's actually concrete in writing, sets out the goals, and refreshes the scenario when different components of the plan change, then I think it makes people feel more comfortable saying, we contemplated that there would be a downturn on the market. We contemplated that, you may have a health issue. We've planned for this. We have enough savings. And it does make everyone feel a little bit more comfortable knowing that, there's something in place that projects out what's going to happen. And the worst that's going to happen is not so bad. So I think that helps people as well. But emotional, financial, as the market indicates, the financial markets are very emotional, and they're a reflection of how people feel. So when you see these sell-offs, people are scared. When you see the market at all-time high, they're feeling very confident about our financial economy in the U.S. Particular. So it's all emotional, it's all money. But again, when you put health issues at risk in this COVID era, it really adds to the complications that people are trying to navigate.
Absolutely. And as you said, if you don't start on the same page to begin with, it's difficult to get onto that same page if you're in a difficult relationship.
Yeah,
that's some good advice to try and stabilize in an uncertain world. And we really appreciate your insights today, and hope that your clients take some comfort in knowing that they've got a plan in place, and that they've scenario planned to the extent that's possible in a changing world. And really appreciate your guidance and your thoughts for today.
My pleasure. Nice to see you. Nice to be here.
Nice to see you. Our guest has been Gabrielle Clemens of RBC Wealth Management. She's a managing director with RBC Wealth Management. And if people wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
You can call me. My cell is 781-910-4770, or you can send me an email at gabrielle.clemens@rbc.com. It's GABRIELLE.CLEMENS@rbc.com. I look forward to hearing from you.
Wonderful. It's a pleasure having you on Radio Entrepreneurs, and stay safe.
Great. Thanks, Jonathan. Have a great day.